I stood beside my ex-husband's coffin, black veil trembling, while whispers sliced through the church like knives. We were divorced, disgraced, unfinished, yet his death dragged me back into a life I barely survived. When his mistress appeared, dressed in white, smiling as if she'd won, something inside me cracked. Grief twisted into humiliation, then rage. She leaned closer, her eyes daring me to react, daring me to break. That was when my lawyer squeezed my hand, calm and steady, and quietly said the words that would change everything I thought I knew about his secrets, power, betrayal, and revenge. The church smelled of lilies and polished wood, the kind of scent that clung to your clothes long after you left, like grief refusing to loosen its grip. I stood in the front row, dressed in black from head to toe, my fingers locked together so tightly they'd gone numb. I wasn't sure why I was there. Maybe because 10 years of marriage doesn't vanish just because the divorce papers are signed. Maybe because some endings demand witnesses. The coffin lay closed, heavy and final. My ex-husband, Daniel Hale, once a rising corporate star, once the man I trusted with my life, was inside. Dead at 42. A sudden heart attack, they said. I hadn't cried yet. Shock does that to you. It builds a wall and dares your feelings to climb it. Whispers floated behind me. That's the ex-wife. She looks composed. After everything he did to her, I wouldn't even show up. Everything he did to me. The affairs. The lies. The late nights that turned into hotel receipts I found hidden in his briefcase. The way he'd smiled during our divorce hearing, calm and confident, as if stripping me of our house and dignity was just another boardroom win. I felt eyes on me and turned. She was standing by the aisle. Young. Radiant. Dressed in white. Not mourning white. Victorious white. Her lips curved upward when our eyes met, not even pretending to hide it. This was her moment. His mistress. The woman he'd left me for. The woman who'd once sent me a message from his phone by accident, telling me to stop clinging to a dead marriage. She walked closer, heels clicking softly against the stone floor, every step deliberate. Mourners parted for her like she belonged there more than I did. I didn't expect you to come, she whispered, voice smooth, almost amused. I swallowed hard. I didn't expect you to smile. Her eyes flicked to the coffin. Some people grieve differently. I almost laughed. Almost screamed. My hands shook as humiliation burned up my spine. This was public. This was calculated. She wanted everyone to see me standing there, the discarded wife, watching her claim the final scene. Then she leaned in, her breath warm against my ear. He loved me at the end, she said softly. That must hurt. The walls cracked. My chest tightened, air refusing to cooperate. Memories crashed over me, Daniel shouting that I was replaceable, Daniel signing divorce papers without reading them, Daniel telling the judge I was emotionally unstable. I'd lost my marriage, my home, my social standing. And now, even in death, he was humiliating me. I stepped back, my heel catching on the edge of the rug. For a second, the world tilted. A hand steadied me. Easy, a calm voice said. I turned to see Mark Levin, my lawyer. Gray suit. Steady eyes. The one person who never lied to me during the divorce. He'd fought quietly, carefully, even when Daniel's high-powered attorneys bulldozed us in court. You didn't have to come, I whispered. He nodded once. You did. The service began. Prayers. Eulogies. Daniel's business partner praised his integrity. I clenched my jaw so hard it ached. Integrity. The word echoed cruelly. When it ended, people approached the coffin in pairs. The mistress went first. She placed her hand on the wood, bowed her head dramatically, then glanced back at me with a look that said, I won. That's when Mark leaned closer. Don't react, he murmured. Not yet. I frowned. What do you mean? He slipped a thin folder from inside his coat, pressed it gently against my palm. Daniel left more than debts behind, he said quietly. I just received this yesterday. My heart skipped. What is it? Mark's voice dropped to a whisper. Evidence. I looked at the folder. At the mistress still smiling near the coffin. And for the first time since Daniel died, I felt something other than grief. I felt the promise of revenge. The moment I got home, I locked the door, slid down against it, and finally let myself breathe. My hands trembled as I placed the file on the coffee table, staring at it like it might explode. Outside, the world moved on, cars passed, neighbors laughed, but inside my apartment, time stalled. Mark sat across from me, calm as ever. Before you open it, he said, you need to understand something. Daniel didn't just betray you as a husband. He broke laws. Serious ones. My throat tightened. Why would he leave this behind? He didn't mean to, Mark replied. He hid it. I found it. I opened the file. Contracts. Bank statements. Offshore accounts. A web of shell companies with names I didn't recognize, but Daniel's signature was everywhere. Transfers made during our marriage. Assets quietly moved before the divorce. Money that should have been disclosed in court. He lied under oath, I whispered. Yes, Mark said. And that's just the beginning. He flipped to another section. Photos. Emails. Printed messages between Daniel and his mistress, her name was Lila, discussing more than just their affair. They talked about manipulating stock prices, insider information, fake losses written off to bankrupt subsidiaries. I felt sick. She knew. She helped, Mark said. And she benefited. My humiliation at the funeral suddenly made sense. Lila hadn't just won his love. She thought she'd won everything. What happens now? I asked. Mark met my eyes. Now, power shifts. 2 days later, the first confrontation happened. Daniel's company announced a memorial meeting at headquarters. Employees. Executives. Press. Lila was listed as his longtime partner. I almost didn't go. Almost. But Mark insisted. You need to be seen, he said. And you need witnesses. The boardroom buzzed with hushed conversations when I entered. Heads turned. Some faces showed pity. Others, curiosity. Lila stood near the front, dressed impeccably, already playing the grieving widow. Her smile faltered when she saw me. What are you doing here? She hissed as I approached. I was invited, I replied evenly. I'm still Daniel's legal ex-wife. She laughed under her breath. You always loved clinging to titles. Before I could respond, Mark stepped forward. Actually, he said, voice carrying, she's also a material witness. Silence fell like a dropped glass. Lila stiffened. Excuse me. Mark handed a sealed envelope to the board chairman. These documents outline financial misconduct conducted by Daniel Hale, with assistance from Ms. Lila Grant. Gasps rippled through the room. That's a lie. Lila snapped, her composure cracking. She's trying to smear him because she was bitter. Mark didn't raise his voice. The evidence includes emails, recordings, and transaction logs. Authorities have already been notified. I watched the color drain from her face. For the first time, she looked afraid. The chairman cleared his throat. Ms. Grant, we'll need you to stay behind. Lila turned to me, eyes blazing. You think this makes you powerful? I leaned in, my voice low. No. The truth does. Security escorted her out as whispers erupted. Phones came out. Someone started recording. Outside, Lila tried one last move. She grabbed my arm. Daniel promised me everything, she said, panic edging her voice. You can't take that from me. I looked at her hand on my sleeve. Then at her face. He already took everything from both of us, I said, pulling free. That night, Mark called me. There's more, he said. Daniel changed his will a month before he died. My heart pounded. Changed it how? There was a pause. You need to come to my office. And, just like that, I knew the worst betrayal was still waiting to be revealed. Mark's office was unusually quiet that morning. No ringing phones. No assistants rushing past the glass walls. Just the soft hum of the city outside and the weight of everything I was about to learn. He slid a single document across the desk. The updated will, he said. My fingers hovered before touching it. Who did he leave it to? Mark didn't answer right away. He waited until I opened the folder. My name was at the top. I stared at it, convinced my eyes were lying. This can't be right. It is, Mark said gently. Daniel revised the will 4 weeks before his death. After the divorce. After transferring assets back into traceable accounts. My heart thundered. Why? Mark exhaled. Because he knew the investigation was coming. And because legally, he couldn't leave anything to Lila without exposing the fraud. The courtroom was packed a week later. Lila sat at the defendant's table, no longer dressed in white. Her confidence was gone, replaced by sharp glances and trembling hands. The judge listened as Mark presented the evidence, bank trails, emails, recordings. Each exhibit hit the room like a hammer. Then came the will. The judge adjusted his glasses. All assets not seized under criminal forfeiture will pass to the lawful beneficiary. Lila stood up. That's not fair, she screamed. He promised me everything. The judge's voice was cold. Promises made in crime do not override the law. She was arrested before the session ended. Fraud. Conspiracy. Obstruction. As officers led her away, she looked back at me, eyes wet and furious. "You planned this," she spat. I met her gaze. "You humiliated me at his funeral," I said quietly. "This is justice." Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I felt steady. Weeks passed. Daniel's company restructured. The money returned to me wasn't just compensation, it was closure. I donated part of it. The rest I invested in myself. A new home. A new start. One evening, I sat on my balcony, city lights flickering below. Mark joined me with 2 cups of tea. "You're free now," he said. I smiled softly. I think I always was. I just didn't know it. The past didn't vanish, but it loosened its grip. And for the first time since standing beside that coffin, I felt hope, quiet, warm, and finally my own.